Welcome to First Responder Financial Freedom Podcast. We talk to first responders all over the nation who are investing and working on businesses outside of their first responder jobs. Our goal is to motivate and educate each other and help provide a better financial understanding for a better future. Now here are your hosts, Mike Webb, Tyler Thrush, and Aaron Foster.
All right, what's up, everybody? First Responder Financial Freedom. I am here with Mike, Aaron, and our guest, Stinson Bland. Stinson and I have been good buddies for a few years now, as well as Mike. We all met through a mastermind, and we continue to stay in touch. And although Stinson is not a first responder, I know personally he has a ton of value to provide to our first responder community. Stinson, thank you for hopping on the show. And if you can, real quick, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and what your current business looks like, and we can go from there.
Cool. Thanks for having me. What's cool is I know Mike and Tyler just met Aaron, but I know you guys, and through the mastermind community, I've had the privilege of working with, in the investor space, a lot of first responders. First and foremost, thank you guys for what y'all do, you guys here, and then the guests or the listeners. But it's really cool. Like all the people I know that are first responders from the investor community, it's always blown my mind how you guys live like multiple lives. I don't know about Aaron, but I know you guys are fathers, you guys are first responders, and you're entrepreneurs. And it takes a special type of person to do that. So kudos to you guys, and that's super amazing. A little bit about myself. I've been investing now. Next month will be 13 years. I started in late 2009. Basically, the way I got into investing is I had a marketing business that was doing really well. I was in my 20s. I was dumb. Can I cuss on here? I was a dumbass.
Yeah, we've had Todd and Chad on here. You're covered.
Cool. Yeah, if Todd's been on here, I'm definitely good. I was in my 20s. I was making good money. And when the market crashed, I was doing marketing specific to small cap companies on Wall Street. When the market crashed in 2008, my business evaporated. Being a 20-year-old, I moved out as a teenager. I grew up in a rough environment, a broken home. I never had any kind of role model or financial advisor. So when I started making good money in my 20s, I was leasing 2 cars, leasing a penthouse. Like I thought I was going to retire by 30. All the dumb shit you do.
Jordan Belfort.
Sadly, it's kind of tied into all that type of stuff. It's a past life of mine. But it all disappeared overnight. I can remember being in my office with my best friend, and Lehman Brothers was filing bankruptcy, which was the oldest brokerage in the world. And I was financially ruined. Like that day, it was over. It stopped. I owed the IRS a bunch of money, and my income was gone. I reached out to my friend, now my business partner in the building next door, who I'd known for a long time and watched his success grow in a big way. I said, hey, this is where I'm at. I have some money. What should I do? I respect your opinion. And he told me to get into real estate. He's like, it's changed my life. You should look into this. So I started doing research. I found a couple partners, 2 of my good friends, and we bought a home investors franchise. That's the We Buy Ugly Houses people. I bought one in Dallas, started wholesaling there, doing pretty well. Specifically selling mostly to one person, Mike Hambright, who you guys know, and became very involved in there. Started running the marketing, the ad council for Dallas. Realized I didn't like being put in a box, a franchise, like you're stuck in their rules and exactly what they say. So left that, or sold that, bought out of that. I didn't sell that. Bought out of that in 13, and then started doing my own thing. In the buying space, the info marketing space, the mastermind space. Fast forward in 19, I decided to move to Waco, Texas, out of Dallas, Texas, to focus on buying rentals and creating passive income, because I've always been transactional my whole life, no retirement. And so I moved down here and started buying houses, flipping, doing a tiny bit of wholesaling, and mostly focused on buy and hold and owner financing.
Nice. So I guess we can just kind of start there because this is how a lot of people are looking for their markets. What made you choose to leave Dallas, which is a huge market? A lot of people are, there's a lot of success there, to Waco. What was it that you saw in Waco that made you decide this is where I want to move and invest?
So what's crazy about that question is not chip games, Aaron. That's when we travel, I say I'm from Waco, and they're like, they either mention, Fixer Upper, which is fine, or David Koresh. So Fixer Upper is better than David Koresh for sure. The truth is I'm a Dallas guy, man. I was born and raised there. I love Dallas. That's my home. And to move to Waco, it wasn't an attractive thing, right? Like coming from a major city to a small town with limited resources here. Like there's only so much to do in restaurants. That wasn't the appeal. I had good friends here, but what was the appeal was the ability to buy properties at a big discount, the lack of competition. I knew that I could bring my strategies and skill sets from Dallas that made me successful there, and I believed I could dominate here. And it's proving to be somewhat true. And I don't say that from ego, but we're doing pretty well. And then the big kicker was another conversation with Shane, and he was talking about following the money. And that's what he's always done. He's followed the money. And if you think, well, you guys aren't from Texas, but they put billions of dollars into the infrastructure connecting Dallas to Austin, redoing I-35. And right in between Dallas and Austin is Waco, Texas. And at that time, you could buy houses in Waco, Texas for $30,000, $40,000. That's gone now. But if the federal government's putting billions of dollars to connect these two cities, and a major city in the middle is an opportunity zone, that's what was the big attractor here, and the lack of
And
competition.
nice. And it's funny. I know that on our own conversations, I know you always use a phrase to me that makes a lot of sense. You always said, "We're in the path of progress."
Yeah,
And that's beautiful because like you said you're taking the lead from a friend, and I guess you would call him Shane, a mentor and a partner.
1,000%.
And then you're saying, hey, this guy's been pretty successful. Okay, so there's one big indicator. And then number two, hey, we're spending a ton of money right here to connect these two major cities, and our city is right here in the middle. Boom. And like you said, I know from previous conversations, again, you do like Dallas. It's hard to go from a city that has a million options, all these things, to Waco, right? I mean, that's a huge culture shock. But I think now, and it's definitely showing to be true, you knew kind of maybe like short-term pain,
Yes.
long-term gain.
And what's crazy, Tyler, is I lived in downtown Dallas in a high rise for 18 years. I could go downstairs, take an elevator downstairs, and have more. I could walk to more restaurants and bars and live music than I can drive to in the entire city of Waco. So it was a huge culture shock. But luckily, it's
Don't
crazy
come
with
to West
the
Virginia, Ian. You're done, buddy.
well, what's crazy is I hate to say this because the pandemic was terrible for a lot of people, and it's a bad thing. But for me, it was the catalyst. I told my fiance, I said, "Hey, we're already stuck at home. Like, it's not going to be a big culture shock. Let's make the leap right now and try it. And if it doesn't work out, we can always come back to Dallas. It's 90 minutes away." Um, and it's worked out amazingly. And the craziest thing is I didn't know it, but I like this quality of life. I mean, there's no traffic. My friend, the quality of relationship here is just different than Dallas. In a big city, everybody's kind of trying to keep up with one another, and was falling into that trap. And here, it's more about authentic relationships.
That's one thing we talk about a lot is the is having a good quality of life. Like I think about a year ago, we started this conversation of like when we buy certain things as a quality of life purchase. Like, because we don't want to just grind all day long. We want to actually go out there and enjoy the fruits of our labor. And like when I retire from DC, I don't think I'm going to have DC in my rear view mirror forever, or I will have it in my rear view mirror forever. I don't think I'll stay in DC area because it's so busy and it's such an aggressive short-term transient city. I want to also move somewhere where it's more like calm and even keel and people know each other and people are good to each other. So that's a good thing to highlight is for our listeners, you really do need to focus on your quality of life, whether it be now or later on, because it makes a huge difference in lifestyle and your choices.
That's Aaron. I mean, to speak on that, when I moved to Waco, now I foresee myself always having a home here in Waco. This paper right here is actually my affirmations and some goals based on numbers of houses I own. And one of them is to always have a house here. The quality of like moving here and like slowing down and getting out of that rat race that was Dallas has made me realize that I value relationships and experiences more than ever. Because in Dallas, there was just all this, I don't know, like glitz and glamour that you could be distracted with. It's a big waste of money and it's all false, you know? And now it's like my ideal Friday night is going to a buddy's house and having a fire and listening to music and just hanging out and watching their kids grow, you know? And that wasn't the case back then.
I feel like every major metropolitan area is kind of a rat race, and it's a very aggressive, especially the Northeast. Like I've never been to Dallas. I've only been through Texas one time when I was driving across country. But like every major city I stopped in, it was kind of like the same song and dance. It was like, who knows who's connected to who, like what events can we go to where we see the people that we want to see and better ourselves and whatever else. And DC being, obviously very politically driven, everybody's like, oh, who are you and who are you connected to and what do you want? And I'm like, I don't want to live that lifestyle once I leave the DC area. Like
absolutely, Aaron. Like in Dallas, the second question when you meet somebody is, what do you do? AKA, how big's your paycheck? In Waco, the second question is like, do you mountain bike? Like, what's your hobby? Or what charity or what church or charities are you associated with? That's the second question always. But in Dallas, it's like, hey, I want to know how much money you make. Like, they don't say that specifically, but what you do for a living is it's a dick measuring contest, you know?
It's fun. No, you're good. I'm usually the one that's getting in trouble for cussing and saying things. So I'm glad to have somebody that's out there with me.
Like Robin Doug.
Yeah, like Robin.
Yeah, that was the last episode. Yeah, we're gonna get censored. Thanks, Zuckerberg.
I don't want to step on toes, but like, what do you find that it's harder or easier or it's the same to invest in a smaller community like Waco than it is in a big city? What do you like? What's the comparison?
Can you help me understand that question a little bit better? What do you mean? Like, is it easier to buy houses or?
I guess I'm trying to throw a softball to you. Like in DC, there's millions of investors from all over the world here. We have the Saudis here, we have the Chinese here, we have the locals here. So it's a lot of competition. But once I start, like one of the reasons I invest 3 hours east and 3 hours west is because it's a little bit less competition. The quality of life is a little slower, but it has its own obstacles. So what have you found investing there versus Dallas?
1,000%. Dallas is full of hedge funds, iBuyers, a lot of money. Everybody's an investor. I mean, when you go, when we go to a restaurant and somebody asks, what do you do? I'd be like, oh, I'm an investor. And then the bartender would be like, oh, I'm flipping a house right now. You know, it's like the craziest thing. So moving to Waco, because of Chip and Joanne games, there is more people here, but we still don't have institutions here. And I say this from a humble space because of my position in the masterminds and my connections within the space of investing. I understand technology and a lot of different strategies that are very advanced. So I'm able to outpace the people here based solely on SOPs and data and just having strategies. A lot of the guys that are investors here, they're my friends, but they're just kind of, doing it the old fashioned way, like just handshaking and getting to know people. And I'm dominating because I'm bringing these advanced, like big city tactics to a smaller town.
So Stinson, what exactly, because I know you basically stood this business up from nothing 2-3 years ago, correct?
Yeah. November of 2019.
Okay. So for all intents and purposes, a relatively young business. What does your business look like right now? And then kind of maybe we can work backwards. Like, how do you build a business that looks like that?
Yeah. I mean, me being on here is perfectly timed. I told you guys before we started, I have a weekly level 10 meeting with my team. I literally just got off the weekly call and I was emotional. I teared up. Like, it's crazy. I've suffered from imposter syndrome, just like everybody else, or just like a lot of people. Like, I've been teaching as a coach and running masterminds and telling people what to do, but not what to do, but how to do it, I should say. And it's just crazy when you actually go out and implement things and it starts to come to fruition. For example, in my business this week, we closed eight properties, not 8 properties, 8 transactions. I double closed one. And some of these houses, I never talked to the leads. I never saw the house. I never looked at the comps. All I did was show up to the title office with money, double close or close, and it's happening. So it's crazy to say, hey, 3 years ago, it was me and a VA sending text, clicking the damn thing and sending text and then driving down here to meet with people. And now that it's actually running like a real machine or a real business, fully reporting KPIs and stuff like that. A level 10 is a weekly meeting we have that follows a cadence based on a Gino Wickman book called Traction. The system is EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. It's just a structure, and we do it every week. I've been running level 10 meetings for 2 years, but hiring my COO, who is a data dork, she'll tell you that. She loves to be behind the glass, working everything. Like now with our bookkeeping being together and having all our KPIs, every week we can see where we're trending, what our cost per lead is, what marketing channel is working, what's not. And it's the difference between having a real business and just kind of a hobby, right? Like to actually forecasting and know exactly where we are in regards to things.
And you've worked hard to create that too. Like you said, you started off with just you and a VA, and then now you have a COO. What steps, or if you want, can you kind of fill in the gap between those two periods as far as what were your first couple hires? How long did that process take? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So the first hire was a VA. He was helping me with texting. I was texting before texting changed. He was helping me with texting and basically trying to get me to appointments in Waco. I was still in Dallas at that time. We moved down to Dallas. I went through several variations of hiring a bunch of VAs, firing a bunch of VAs, trying to make it work. And then I realized that you guys that know me will tell you, you'll know this. I get my energy from people. Like once COVID hit and we weren't having meetings, I wasn't around people, I got very, I guess, depressed. It's a weird thing to say, but I feed off energy. My energy comes from helping others and being around others. So then I quit the VA thing and hired a lead manager, Paige. She's been amazing. So Edwin's out. He's taking calls at night. Paige is the front facing. She's building the relationships on the phones. I'm going out to the appointments, buying the houses. I enjoy doing that. I don't want to get out of that seat. I actually like that seat. And then I hired a COO to really dial in the SOPs to make it where we have everything documented. Every time we go to an appointment, the same things are happening so that we can make predictions based on the outcomes of what we're seeing in the reporting from bookkeeping and the KPIs within our system.
And that's the thing too. You just said something that's funny, because I know if you sit in enough masterminds, one of the things you said, people are like, you can't be doing that, is you like going to the appointments and that's where you enjoy it. The whole point, most of us are doing our own businesses because we want to do something that we like and also earn money. So you've built the necessary seats and jobs around that, knowing full well that that's the seat that you want to sit in right now. Will that change? Maybe. But if not,
Hopefully.
your business is set up. Yeah. Your business is set up to run that way, right? I mean,
it's crazy, Tyler. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was in a house that smelled like, basically I left that house and went home and changed. It was so nasty with the smell of ammonia, right? And then the walls were literally, you could hear the walls crawling with rats inside of it. It was, and then I left. I'm like, how the hell do I, why, how do I enjoy this? So it's funny, but yeah.
There's one of the things we teach our rookies is don't lean on the walls, because some of the places we go into, they're so infested with bed bugs, fleas, cockroaches, whatever it might be. Like if you put your bag down on certain places or you lean against the wall, like expect to come back with the itchies and the heebie-jeebies for the rest of the day.
Or people sit down too. They'll sit down on somebody else's couch or chair to take a report. I'm like, what are you doing?
How often is bed bugs a problem at the firehouses?
A decent amount for us, because we have 3,500 guys and they're traveling from everywhere.
Yeah, in and out.
Yeah. And then like 4 people, like we have 4 different shifts. So like if one guy has it, and he sleeps in the bed one night, that means the next 3 nights somebody else will have it before they catch it the first time.
And then they take it home.
Yeah,
They
so
take their bedding with them to another station or home. Yeah.
or wrap the bedding up and put it in a locker. Oh, so we actually just got, because there became such an issue in DC, we ended up getting bed bug proof beds, where it's like this jailhouse blue slide around bed where it's like as hard as a freaking rock. So then guys, what they'll do is they'll go out and get mattress pads and put on top of the beds, and
Which negates the whole purpose, right?
negates the whole purpose. And they wrap that up and they put it in a wood locker, and then the wood locker now it's just a mess, man. Like, we haven't had any problems in a couple of years, but like I know other firehouses that have.
I've never even considered that. So.
Oh yeah, we have a dog that comes around once a year and smells. That's a bed bug dog. It sounds like a racket to me. Like tell the dog to just sit down a couple times throughout the day next to a bed, like you're good to go. But he comes in and supposedly they can smell the bed bugs, and it'll sit down if it smells it. Sounds like witchcraft to me, but who knows? Anyways, rats running through the walls. Don't put the bag down. How do you enjoy this? You're changing clothes. I think that's where we were.
Yeah, but to Tyler's point, I mean, I'm designing the business around what I enjoy, but it's also a lot of entrepreneurs suffer from this, and I'm still struggling with this. I feel like I'm a pretty good buyer. Honestly, I'll just say it. I feel like I'm a great buyer. I'm really good at building relationships and rapport and winning the deals. And I think that's because of my willingness to give and genuinely be empathetic to what the situation is. So it's hard for me. I've built the business around my ego too. Is like, I think I'm really good at this and I need to be doing this. But what I've learned in the last, 60 days, 45 days is that because I run television commercials to advertise my business, I get leads from outside of my buy area. It's too far for me to drive the way TV commercials work. So I partnered with a guy that's a kind of a wholesaler. He owns some used car lots. He's also my contractor in Temple, which is about 45 minutes south of here. I said, hey, when I get properties in Killeen, which is about an hour and a half from here, I don't want to go to it. I've always thrown them away. Why don't you go to these appointments for me? If you get it, whatever, we'll close on it, we'll sell it, we'll split it 50-50 minus a $3,000 marketing cost to my company to help offset my marketing. And what's happened is he's closing like 1 out of 3 appointments, which blows my numbers away. I'm at like 1 out of 9. So I built this business around my ego, thinking I'm the best person to be in these houses and to go do this. But what I'm realizing now is that maybe I'm actually truly becoming a business owner, and I need to put somebody in this seat so I can actually really build a business, because I'm not chasing these leads. And I mean, guys, like, these are follow-up calls. You know what I mean? Like, this is I'm in the weeds of the business, and how can I be a true owner and a true passive investor if I'm taking notes on, and making follow-up calls. So it's been interesting over the last 30, 45 days. And Tyler, you've probably seen it from our accountability. There's been some mind shift in our journal, or my journal.
Yeah, I can see it change too. It's funny. We just had a whole episode on mindset. We were calling it, unicorns and all that stuff, but it works, right? And it's true. And now your mind is set. Your subconscious is set on doing this over and over. Which kind of brings us to what we were talking about earlier when you mentioned, different people in different seats. So a lot of us have been reading a book called Who Not How. You read that book, correct?
Changed my life. Yeah, changed my life.
So do you kind of want to talk about maybe, generally what that book is and then how you applied it to the business?
1000%. So what's funny is that book was a gift from Todd Swigert. Like, one day Todd texted me and said, hey, what's your address? And I gave him my address, and he sent me that book. And I read that book. I'm not a great reader. I'm dyslexic. I have ADD. It's hard for me to focus. I have 1,000 things going on. Like, my phone's gone off 10 times since we've been on here. But that book spoke directly to me, because I've always had limited beliefs of, like, how am I going to do this? I just said it. I'm busy. I'm distracted. It's hard to figure out, how am I going to build a business? How am I going to write systems or SOP systems for my business when I have these struggles of ADD and just I'm a mover. I'm not a typer, right? And then I started reading that book. I'm like, holy shit, this book is talking directly to me. And it was like, the general message of the book is to quit focusing on how you're going to do it and find the people that can do what you don't want to do or what you need done.
And actually enjoy that.
Dude, it's the craziest thing. You said
People
unicorn.
enjoy QuickBooks. Mind-boggling.
Don't even get me started, man. Like bookkeeping is, if you guys said, hey, what's your biggest problem in your business? It's bookkeeping by far. Yeah.
So Stinson, to your point with dyslexia, like I've got dyslexia too, and it's one of the obstacles that I face. So I do a lot of numbers, I do a lot of reading to try to push that dyslexia off and try to overcome it. Like yesterday, I was talking to we just had our contract ratified for our new fire department contract, and one of the guys sent me a message and was like, I was trying to break numbers down for him, and it wasn't coming across clearly because of how I process things. And I was like, sorry, dude. I was like, my dyslexia is fucking off today. And he's like, why? I was like, I never knew you were dyslexic. I'd never known. I was like, oh yeah, every day I'm having problems. Like I put an offer on a package of condos yesterday, and it took me the entire day to break the numbers down to make sense because there were so many numbers and letters in there. I couldn't process it, so I had to actually break it down. So I guess the point I'm trying to get at is like, no matter what your obstacle is, don't use it as a crutch. Use it as something like it's just an obstacle. It's not a stopping point. It's not a dead end. It's something that you can overcome. You just got to figure out how to overcome it, and that's what you have done, and I've had to figure out as well.
Aaron, I don't think this was a topic we were going to talk about, but I want to talk about it for a second. Like, I grew up in a broken home, alcoholic dad, mother that was mentally not the stablest. So dyslexic that in the third grade, I had to move to another school. So I rode the short bus, another school on the other side of town. So I had to move in third grade. I had to move to a new school. I was the new kid in the school, and I had to ride the short bus. You know how mean kids are. Like, I was on the bus with the kids that were truly mentally incapacitated. So elementary school was extremely difficult. I didn't get to go to recess. I had to go to the special class, right, to learn how to read. And then going to that home and moving out at a very early age. I moved out when I was 14. I didn't move out. I didn't have a choice. Some people would look at that and say, life's tough. This sucks. Woe is me. All this stuff is very, very bad. But for me, that's always been the pusher, right? Like, I've always used these bad things that have happened to me as like the motivation that I have to prove to myself that I didn't deserve that, or I'm better than that, and that didn't define me. And I think I know in y'all's field that you guys are like, most of the people, I imagine most of the people in your field are like action takers and believe in themselves and want to make a change. So like, there's a big difference between somebody that takes something, a hardship in their life, and soaks on that, or lets that set them back rather than something that pushes that. So anything that happens bad, just like the thing when my last partnership kind of fell apart, that could have been the crippling in, or when the market crashed in 2008 and I was basically bankrupt to the IRS, that could have been the end. But it was like more about proving to myself that doesn't define me, right? So off topic from who, not how, but it's super important.
So you have these things that basically you can say were an obstacle, but you kind of leave it with a chip on your shoulder that you use for something to be productive and positive. And some of these things, like we just alluded to, QuickBooks or bookkeeping, there's things like I responded to a post one of our friends had, Josh Hines, and I was like, he's like, what's a bottleneck in your business? And, when I've been really thinking about a lot of that kind of stuff, because to your point, like, it's easy at times to feel like you don't have a business, but you have a hobby, or at sometimes like a complete shit show. It just depends. Like, that happens sometimes multiple times a day. It could happen during a week, but that's just to some extent life of an entrepreneur, I think. But I was like, I've been just trying to evaluate, like, whenever things I procrastinate them, or I'm like, man, I really hate doing this part of the business, to the book, Who Not How. It's like, well, you know what? I can't hire out everything, but let's figure out what I really enjoy and what I'm really good at. And, Aaron talked about the quality of life. Like, you didn't start this business to hate it. There is a season where you have to grind. And once you have a little bit of momentum, then it's like, okay, what's the biggest thing I can get off my plate, and go find somebody that can take care of that. And next thing you know, now you have more time. Now let's reinvest that time into something that you're good at and you enjoy. And then you can kind of get that flywheel in motion where it's like, if you just offload that stuff and now you go play Xbox for 4 hours, well, then that wasn't a very wise investment of money and outsourcing. But like, there's people out there that enjoy sitting behind a laptop. Like you just said, your CEO or COO is a data nerd. There's people that would much rather sit behind a spreadsheet than sit across the kitchen table and buy the house. There's people that would rather swing the hammer than they'd rather swing the hammer than go sit to the bank and talk about the underwriting requirements for the next deal. So you just need to figure out who those people are. And next thing you know, you get the right people in place. It takes so much off your plate. And I feel like I'm constantly trying to work at that. And I don't know if you ever totally get there, but you just said you had a very emotional level 10 meeting because you start to feel like you're actually getting somewhere. And maybe to the book's title, traction, you're getting traction with that level.
I just trying to tell them how much I appreciate them. It was absolutely, the truth is that I front loaded this week because I'm going on vacation next week. And a year ago, if I had done what I'm doing this week and it was just me and Paige, I would be a disaster. There'd be no way I'd make it on. I'm leaving tomorrow. There'd be no way I'm going back next week. But that's why I got emotional. It's like, holy shit, I can't believe what we're accomplishing. And we got 2 more contracts in this, purchase contracts in, while we're, closing on 8 deals. Like, it's just incredible. I want to tell you guys a little bit of what happened too, is that I was grinding through the business. It was very lumpy. So as a flipper and a buy and hold guy, when it was just me and the small team, it's still a small team, but when it was really just me, I would have a good month. I'd get 5 or 6 houses, close them. I don't wholesale, close them all. And then I would start worrying about rehabbing. Which ones do I flip? Which ones do I keep? Which ones are we going to own or finance? What are we going to do? So then the following month, I would get 1 or 2. So I was in this constant cycle of emotional ups and downs, right? And then I was like, what would change this business where I could get some consistency and really start scaling? And that's when the Who Not How book came, like literally in the mail. So it was like divine intervention or whatever. It was like meant to be. Read the book. I was like, started thinking about it. And I knew that what my business lacked was systems, right? It was all in my head. Everything I was only focused, whatever I was focused on was happening, but I could only focus on so much at a time, right? Like if I was focused on my data and marketing, leads would fly in. If I was focused on buying, we'd buy them. If I was focused on flipping, we were flipping. It was very, very lumpy. I tried to hire through Upwork. I've created this ideal candidate to help me, right? Tried Upwork for like 2 months. It didn't work. I went to the number 1 placement agency in town, paid them $2,500, interviewed all these people. It didn't work. And I just gave up. I literally, and it's not like me, but I just was at my wit's end. I talked to hundreds of people and hadn't found it. And then my friend invited me over to a backyard fire. And we're sitting there, and there was a new couple there. And the guy, I was talking to him. I was like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a coach. I'm a wide receiver coach for Baylor. That's a university here in Waco. And then I asked his wife, I said, what do you do? And she goes, I work for a wholesaler in Tulsa. It's like real estate stuff. You wouldn't get it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm miserable there. And I was like, I can't remember
baking powder.
The first question I asked was, what's your CRM? And she was like, looked at me like weird. She's like, oh, it's on Salesforce. And I go, is it left main? And her eyes got so big. She's like, how do you know this? And I was like, I don't want to talk about this tonight. This is about having fun and meeting new people. But if you're miserable at your job, will you come into my office tomorrow and talk to me? And then I hired her on the spot the next day. Everything that I wanted, everything that I needed, she had it. Like I wanted to go to left main. She'd already done that. And I truly believe, I believe if you really focus on something and put it out there and it just comes to you, right? That's the whole point of these affirmations and all this stuff. It's a weird thing to say, but I was so focused on trying to find that person. And you said it earlier, a unicorn, Tyler, like a unicorn hopped in my lap. You know what I'm saying? Like right out of the coals of a fire.
That would have just made the bonfire weird. Her husband may not have liked the unicorn hopping in your lap,
But it's crazy. She started working with me. And then like a month later, we went to a friend's birthday at a bar. And her husband came up to me. I'd only met him that one night, and he said, "Hey, I just want to tell you thank you so much. Our quality of life is so much better. You're an amazing boss. She's happy and all this other stuff." So it's like, and she said, and she'll tell you now that all she could think about was trying to find a new place to go, doing the same thing, right? So it was like just this crazy, crazy,
Yeah,
crazy.
divine intervention. Crazy,
Yeah.
man. Sometimes that serendipitous moment is like when you least expect it too. Like you said, you were at your wit's end. You're just like probably going to the bonfire, like, I'm just gonna have a glass of wine or a beer, and like I just need to unwind.
That's
And then
exactly it.
boom.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I don't want to like lie, but within a 2 to 3 week period of me pretty much giving up on finding the CEO, I was sitting next to her at a bonfire. Like, it's just
Yeah,
crazy.
crazy.
It goes to show networking is important too, though, because if you didn't have the network of people, like if you surround yourself with good people and people who are motivated and motivate you, then it's going to make a big difference in how you are perceived and people perceive other people. So I think that
And
I
it's
love the serendipitous aspect of it, but your network is a big push for success.
it's easy it's easy to use that like old adage, but and I look at the fire service, when you're a detail officer or detail firefighter, whatever, and you go to different firehouses, different shifts, and you can basically feel the pulse of that shift within the first 20 minutes you're there. And you can tell if they're just cancerous people that bitch about everything and how the county didn't do this and the government that, and the Democrats, the Republic, whatever. It's just miserable. And like by the end of the shift, you're just like, oh my God, get me out of here. Versus when you go somewhere else and it's like the guys are motivated, they're washing the rig, they want to train, they're like boom, boom, boom. And I'm not saying every day you need to be like a firecracker, but you basically can see people assimilate to their environment in that setting, and it's no different outside of the firehouse or outside of the police department, whatever the case may be. If you sit there and associate with a bunch of people that are drinking and not taking care of their bodies and not looking at their financial future and trying to be good husbands and raise their families right, like if you're mixing up in the wrong crowd, chances are that's the way you're going to end up too. So like to Stinson's comment, like he's hanging around the right people, he's putting himself in position to take advantage of those types of opportunities to meet a COO, where if he was just drowning his sorrows down at the local watering hole, not okay, you want to do that every now and then, more power to you, but I'm just saying, like, if that is what you become as your everyday norm, like you're not going to even be in the position to see those types of opportunities.
Your network is your net wealth.
Yeah,
and your sanity.
Yeah, you guys know that. Tyler and Mike, you guys know this. I'm a huge Tony Robbins guy. I'm huge in this self-help, which is weird to say. But what all these guys say is that you are the sum of your 5 closest friends, right? And a lot of my childhood friends, I still love them as people. Like, I still love them. Like, they are my brothers. And there's people that were involved in my late teens that I wouldn't have survived without them. I still love them, but they're not my 5 closest people, right? And my fiance, she always says I'm too quick to cut people out, especially negativity. I don't allow negativity in my life. Like, to the point, if somebody's in a bad place, I'll try to support them. But if they're closed off to making change, like they're just in a negative place, I'll tell them like, hey, we're done for now. When you get all that through, when you're done with all that, come back if you want to try to work on things. But I don't allow negativity in my life, and that might be a negative. That might be a bad thing, but for me, my energy comes from other people. I now know that, and I have to be around positive people, or I'll get into a negative space really fast. So I believe you are the sum of the 5 people you're around the most. So moving here, my partner, I mean, they own hotels, movie theaters, shopping centers with Target. They're redoing 12-story historic hotels, subdivisions. Like, getting closer to Shane was a big move for my circle. And then my best friend, my brother, the closest person to me in my life is here. He's a cardiologist, so he saves lives for a living, right? Like, I moved here because I knew I could improve my circle and get out of, that was another aspect of moving here. And then because of those people, I'm meeting more people. To go back to Aaron's point, I'm meeting more people like that, like people that are good people, that are contributors, that are achievers, which is really important to me. So I'm always around these people striving to do more. Like, one of the guys that's in our office, he just bought a new Ferrari. And people are like, saying it's douchey. I'm like, no, dude, like, it's amazing that guy just paid cash for a Ferrari. Like that's motivation for me. I want to be around. I don't necessarily want a Ferrari. I would take one, but I want to be around people that have achieved enough that they can go pay cash for a Ferrari. You know what I mean? That's the type of people I want to be around.
It's like people who are ahead of you rarely punch down. Like, what's the point of them wasting their time punching down at you? It's
That's
the
right.
people that are behind you or next to you. They're those ones that are like either trying to push you back so they can get ahead or pull you down for whatever reason it might be.
It's the yeah butters, right? Like, oh yeah, but he had this. I love that phrase too. I've always loved it because they want to bring you down. I was talking with somebody this weekend at my son's football game, and there was always a reason why so and so was successful, or this person had this opportunity or this job, and it's never giving credit to the fact that, hey, maybe that person worked really hard for that. Maybe that person sacrificed near term to gain something long term. And it's a lot easier to do that than look at yourself and say, hey, maybe if I actually had that same type of discipline and I went after stuff, oh, maybe I could pay cash for our Ferrari too. I'm with you, Stinson. I'm not a huge car guy. I think Ferraris are cool. I wouldn't want it, but I get your point. It's sorry, yeah, it's homeschooling time, kids. But it's
Tyler,
funny.
you said
It's
it to me last week. I believe it was you that it was either you or somebody else, but somebody's like, everybody's going to say, oh, he's so lucky. It's like, dude, luck my ass. Like, I'm working 12, 16 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing lucky about this. I mean, it is luck. It's my grind of putting myself in situations to get lucky.
Yeah. Nobody doing more than you is calling you lucky or, criticizing what you're doing. It's always the people that it's easier to sit there and yab it and bitch and all that. So, it's like the quote, it's like, the harder I work, the luckier I get type thing. And I'm not saying just grind your life away, but like at a certain point, and anybody that's out there doing stuff isn't going to be like, oh, must be nice. Lucky you, blah, blah, blah. It's usually the people that want to sit on the sidelines and just complain. So you just have to keep that negativity out of your life.
I hate the grind mentality. I don't feel like what I do is a grind. I truly, like, there's some moments when the walls are crawling with rats. Like, what the hell am I doing with my life? But I truly enjoy what I'm doing, and especially, like, it was hard for a while, but like as the results are coming in, like, it doesn't make me want to sit back more. It makes me want to work harder, right? Like I enjoy. I don't feel like it's a grind. Like, I'm not grinding. I'm in my office 10 hours a day. I go home, I work. I don't have to work at home. I don't like TV. I struggle reading, Aaron. Like, so what am I gonna do? I'm gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go work in my yard or work on my business. Like, I enjoy work. Like, the grinding mentality is bullshit.
Stinson, I got a question for you. I love the mentality aspect of this conversation because I think a lot of people, they don't pay attention to their mindset, and I think it's very, very important. I want to adjust gears a little bit, like, because I want to use you while we have you here. Because you are a coach, because you are a mentor, because you have experience, because you ground from the bottom up. Actionable items. Like, what can people start doing that are actionable items to start moving towards the direction to get where you are, Mike is, Tyler is, I am? That's something I want to get, like, most people who are going to listen to this, like, they either don't know what they're doing or they're spinning their wheels. Like, what can they do? Is it marketing? Is it offers? Is it running numbers? Like, what would you recommend that are actionable items?
Awesome, Aaron. I love that. I'm gonna give Tyler credit for this. When my last partnership started to fall apart and when COVID hit, again, I got into a depressed state. My life was, again, for like the 10th freaking time, kind of crumbling around me, right? And Tyler and a friend of ours, Bob, were journaling to each other, and they were accountability partners. And I reached out to Tyler and said, hey, I know you and Bob have been doing this for like a year. I want in. And I think we're at like 2 years now, Tyler, that every morning we journal. And I don't, like, when I send the picture to him, or more so when he sends it to me, I can't read what he wrote, but he's saying, hey, I got up this morning and did what I said I was going to do. So I'm starting my day without lying to myself. I set this goal and I'm going to do it every damn day. We don't miss a day. Even on vacation, on my 40th birthday, hungover, don't miss a day. So the number one thing to me is to take action. And I know that's like super plain, but you have to take action and then have an accountability, some kind of accountability, so that you feel like you're truly obligated to take that action. like I have an account. I'm reading 10 pages a day. Like Tyler told me to start doing it. I struggled with it. I found an accountability partner, and now I'm doing it. Now I'm reading 10 in the morning and 10 at night with a different partner. Reading one that's for enjoyment and one that's self-help. So in that regard, having accountability is huge. Just reach out to somebody that you know, like, and trust and loves you and wants better for you, and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Can I just send you a text every day saying I did it? And that will change everything, because then you have somebody that's there to hold you accountable. And you just don't want to let down somebody that you know, like, and trust, and hopefully love. In regard to real estate, if that's the question you're asking, Aaron, I would say that the biggest thing is to take action in regards to marketing. Like, you can read Bigger Pockets, listen to podcasts, study numbers, underwrite deals, all this stuff you want to do. But the biggest thing is you have to get out there and start marketing. I don't care if you're cold calling, door knocking, sending postcards, whatever it is. You have to market yourself so that thousands of people know that what you do, and that you might be able to create a solution to their problem. That's the number one thing. I mean, I've been in the real estate space for a long time, and not everybody, oftentimes people say I can't get a deal, and then you start talking about what have you done for marketing, like, oh, I sent 400 letters.
I looked at Zillow.
I send 30,000 postcards a month. You know, your 400 letters don't stand a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just don't. So marketing would be the number one thing, I would say, in taking action in regards to real estate.
You mentioned TV too, so I know you've done TV and stuff like that. But what I found is interesting, and it's kind of I wanted to go over this when I found out that we were going to have you on the show. Is you've also invested back into your community, right? And what I think is cool, and it also functions as marketing, is I can never pronounce the name of the charity, so when I'm done, you can go ahead and say what it is. But you got out there in your community, you saw a need, you helped fix something that was going wrong with this charity, and in turn, it created, I'm sure, some press, publicity, whatever you want to say. But I love the way you did it, because I know you. I know that was not why you did it. But you did something good. You gave back, and I wanted to bring it up before we close, as we're at 45 minutes, and I wanted to give you a chance to talk about it. I think it was last year or 2 years ago now. I love doing it. I donated because I believe in you. I was like, let's do this. But it was really cool to see how you're not only becoming a great business owner, but you're also becoming somebody in your community who's giving back because of what's going on in your business.
1,000%. And I was going to bring that up when Aaron talked about your network and being around people that are, like-minded. But I didn't want to, I felt weird talking about charity work that I'd done. It seems kind of douchey to me. So my best friend's cardiologist, his wife's stay-at-home mom. She volunteers her time. There's a school about 6 blocks this way, and that neighborhood is pretty rough. Steele was very, very rough. So it's a school that brings in kids that have been through traumatic life events, meaning their parents are either dead, incarcerated, or drug addicts. They bring them into it's a small school. Right now it's 24 students. It's first grade through 12th grade. If they make it all the way through, they'll put them in Baylor, which is like a $60,000 a year university year. It's all nonprofit. These kids early on are going through basically reprogramming of their minds, because these traumatic life events have totally screwed them up. Like they saw their parents get killed, or their mom was a crackhead whore, or whatever. This is like, that sounds terrible, but that's the truth of the matter. So they're reprogramming their minds at an early age, and then start developing them so they can actually make it into a major university. So my friend's stay-at-home mom would volunteer that day with the kids, the infants that weren't at school yet, and she sent me a video when it was raining and the water was leaking through the roof. And this is very embarrassing. On the local news, I called it the crib room, but now I know it's called a nursery. But she sent me a video of water leaking into the crib room during the rain, and she's like, "Hey, do you know? Can you get one of your contractors to come look at this?" And I was like, "What the hell, man? This is a nonprofit for a very good cause. I can take care of this, right?" So we went over there. I found a roofer that was good friends of mine, and he said he would do it at cost. And I think, don't quote me on any of these numbers, but I think it was like $18,000 that we needed to raise, because it's a commercial building, flat roof, big roof. $18,000 to get it done at cost. Start raising money. through Facebook. Friends from not Waco donated, and then the news picked up with the story. And I'm a marketer, like I am trying. I mean, you see, I didn't like my logo's everywhere always. So when the news is gonna be there, like I wore a shirt, a hat, like I took advantage of that situation to brand my company, but also to get awareness out there. And we hit gold, man. We ended up raising like $80,000 for the school, over $80,000. And there's an amazing ending I'm about to tell you about that. Just learned last week. So we raised $80,000. We replaced the entire roof. We got rid of all the asbestos. We re-sided the building. The building's been power washed now. ACs have been replaced. Now we're moving into the interior. We're going to fix all the walls where the water damage was. And then all the windows need to be replaced. But it's a historic building, so that's more complicated. But anyways, we changed that school. And the way I see it is like, these kids are already going through really crazy times in their life. If they're coming into a falling apart, shitty school, like how are they going to change their mindset so their life can be better? And I just got behind that, and it took off like wildfire. Coolest thing, the big payoff for all this, it was been really great for my business. And now the news comes to me as a local authority in the housing market. So I've been on the news like, I don't know, 6 times now, giving perspective on the real estate market. So that marketing is really taken off. And I always have a hat or a logo or do it like this. And I get a lot of credibility when I'm meeting with sellers. Oh, I saw you on the news, or I see your commercials, or both. So that's very helpful. But the big payoff is the school and sent me a text last week, and they want to raise more money to build a new school, and they want to use what we did to revitalize this school. They want to build a new one in another part of town, and they are asking if they can basically bring me and the roofer up there to acknowledge what we did right for the school. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'd be 100% okay with that. And she said, would you be okay if it wasn't me that announced it, but it's going to be our guest speaker? I said, sure. It's Michael Irving. Like, I grew up loving the triplets. Like, I'm going to share the stage with Michael Irving because I wanted to help some kids. Like, that is like the coolest payoff ever, plus the marketing. So I get to share a stage with Michael Irving next month. He'll announce my name, which is amazing.
Hey, Stinson, even though they don't exist anymore, go Redskins.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
that's an awesome story.
Doesn't exist anymore after last Sunday too, so I get it.
That's a great story, man. It's a good feel-good story. Like it's not a financial compensation. It's an emotional one that fills your heart. And I mean, a lot of first responders, they do stuff to help the communities that they're in. This is the same kind of concept, so it's a good, heartwarming story. It's a great reason to.
That's a prime example of like your network, your skill set, and money. How all of those, while yes, you're doing a lot of this for your life, your well-being, but those are all tools, especially the money component. Like, so you now have the ability to use your platform and your skill set to basically deploy those tools, i.e., money, to help countless people. So that's pretty cool. And it's cool to see like responsible corporate people, because, and this is why I get shitty with people whenever they're like, oh, they're rich, they must rip somebody off, they must take an advantage of. Dude, there's so many people out there, not to dilute what you just talked about, doing what you just said, but people only ever see the bad ones that are on TV that embezzled this or did that. And there's people out there in communities all over the country doing great stuff like that. And, it's super awesome to see you do that. So you basically stood a business up in an hour and a half away in 3 years. And now you're in the position to basically change people's lives while you're providing a financial future for yourself and your employees. That's pretty awesome.
I mean, maybe possibly I play a small role in building another school for another community of underprivileged kids. And I rode the damn short bus to school. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at the same time, I'm playing that small role in doing that. It's also helped my business tremendously, right? Like, when I tell people that I want to help them, and I put like our number one core value is people over profit. When I say that to my sellers that I'm meeting with, if they've seen us on the news, or if they go to my website and see all the reviews and see all the coverage, like, they know I'm not feeding them full of bullshit, right? Like, I truly go in with the intention of, I want to help this person. If I can buy a house, I will. But if I can't, it's totally fine, as long as I help that person at least understand their situation. I might not have a solution, but most of the people we deal with in our business of buying distressed properties, they don't even understand their situation, or what their true options are. And some shitty wholesaler will come in there and take advantage of that. And that's one thing that separates us in a big, big way. And now that we've put ourselves on this platform of kind of having, I hate to say it, but some influence in the local market, the last thing I can do, or the last thing I want to do is take advantage of somebody or not. Like, I have more at risk now, right? Like, it would be easy if I took advantage of somebody to call the news and the other news station, right? Like, they could put me, like, it would just be the worst thing. So, and if I, to go back to Aaron's question, like, taking action is like the stupidest thing to say. It's easy to say, but it is really important. But I think what separates guys like us, all four of us here, and a lot of the people listening, is truly believing in yourself. Like, you guys hear it. We all have these obstacles. There's 1,000 things that can make me not want to believe in that I can achieve these things. So even if I feel like I'm faking it, it's that belief that, hey, I can totally fix that school. I didn't know how to do that, right? And I just knew that if I tried, it would happen if I believed in it. So self-belief, I think, is number one before action, for sure.
And that's where getting comfortable in your own skin is really important. Like, so that it's kind of like you got to put the face mask on yourself before the passenger type component. Like, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to lead anybody else past the point of your own self-development. So you need to be taking care of yourself. You need to be sharpening your own axe, because you're not going to be able to go help those kids if you're still drowning in your own crap inside your own head. So, and that's not easy to say. And we've talked about mindset a fair amount on this podcast. And I think probably for a lot of people listening, I would say some people probably just immediately dismiss what we're saying about that. However, I can tell you, when you flip that switch and you really get granular about what is going on between your ears and between the time you get up and the time you go to bed, and you really start to measure it, that's when you really start to see where you're at and where you need to go and what you need to do to get there. And it's not always easy, especially when you're in the whirlwind, but having people like your circle, your Stinsons, your Tylers, your Aarons, and reaching out to those accountability partners and using those affirmations basically as your compass, you can kind of make a little bit of progress each day. So again, not always easy, but you can do it.
Mike, like, to me, I believe a lot of people are first responders listening to this. Is that fair? Just to assume, like, 2/3 or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and maybe like our moms or something. That's
definitely your mom. Definitely your moms. I have no experience in y'all space, but I imagine, and I'm fairly certain, you guys see a lot of bad stuff, like the worst of society, right? And a lot of death and destruction, right? If somebody is listening and they dismiss when we talk about self-help or what's going on in our head, like, with the amount of exposure you guys have as first responders, whether you're accepting it or not, your subconscious is processing all that bad stuff all the time in the back of your head. So it would behoove those people to at least take a couple minutes and just analyze what they truly think is going on in their head. Can I plug another podcast? It's a major deal. A podcast I listen to every month, the same episode. It's Ed Milet, Unlocking Your Success Code. The guy is absolutely amazing. He'll be a billionaire within our lifetime, and he has the same belief system I have. It's on this board. I write it every damn day. I'm a giver, and I seek opportunities to help others achieve their goals. And I think that writing that every day truly makes it to where I go out of my way to make sure I make that impact every day. But that podcast is a great diet. Like, if you want to experience a little mindset stuff and really figure out what's going on in your head, that one episode, Unlocking Your Success Code, is absolutely amazing and life-changing if you are willing to let it
be. And that's the thing too, we've talked about it last episode, but people are so hesitant to do so. But Ed's a great one because he just has this crazy ability to communicate, and it's like, oh man, this guy's amazing. And yeah, I know what episode you're talking about because I think Bob has sent that to me too. I know you have as well. But even yesterday we were talking about it in our Rete meeting, and they're so heavy into mindset. And I think for us, if you grew up blue collar or something like that, it's not common. It's super crazy. But at higher levels of business, it's what most of them focus on most of the day is, where is my head at? What am I doing? That's what they protect the most. And I do love Ed's podcast, even though I pay. Stinson and I joke about the Rete Syndicate every once in a while too, about the Zoom calls.
$500 a month to do Zoom calls. I was in the syndicate when COVID hit, and I got burned out with Zoom. Right, like Zoom was just killing me, and I was like, I can't pay $500 a month to be on Zoom. I just can't do it.
Well, guys, we're coming up on an hour, and we got a couple final questions. But before that, Stinson, is there anything you wanted to touch on before we hit the final questions and let you go about your day?
No, man, I appreciate it. You know, I appreciate the opportunity, but no, not really that can. I'm a talker, so I can talk for everything.
All right, so Stinson, I'm going to ask you the final question. So the first one's going to be, it's kind of a broad question, but what is your motivation? Like, what's your motivation to move forward? To keep pushing? What's your motivation? What's your why?
Yeah, so I have two things. It's the chip on the shoulder that I keep. You know, with my childhood and things like that, and things I've been through, I always keep that as Tony Robbins says, you're either moving towards something you want or away from something you don't want, right? So that's my moving away from something I don't want. That's the push there. And the thing that I want is, it's so cliche, but it's freedom, financial freedom. And I don't mean like, yes, there's a number associated with that, but to me, freedom is the ability to do whatever I want, whenever I want, without having to schedule any kind of priority. So if my fiance says she misses her dad in Colombia today, I have the ability to leave tomorrow to take her to see her dad. I'm not there yet, not even close, but that's the goal I'm achieving. I'm leaving next week to go backpacking with Daniela. I love to travel. I love nature. Like, I want to be in a financial situations where if I want to go buy an RV and go tour national parks for 6 months, that I can do that. That is my goal. Like, financially, that's my goal, is the ability just to move around kind of fluidly.
Love it. I've actually driven cross country in about a dozen countries. You know, I've hiked and hitchhiked across a couple places, and I'm with you. And it gives you a different perspective on the world once you start seeing different places. Even like if you left from Dallas to Waco, or me DC to California, like it's just a different world. It broadens your perspective on the world. So I'm right there with you.
When I went to Colombia with Daniela the first time, we had to drive through what was a fishing village, and the streets of this village were literally trash. And there was, I mean, right on the side of the road, there's just kids just defecating. Like, that was their restroom. That was where they lived. It was the most like, if you want to feel grateful and gratitude, you need to go experience true third world country. Like, you will come home and be grateful for AC and clean water. You know
same thing. I had a very similar experience when I was driving cross country in Tanzania and Kenya, and it's just like what we see as poverty is different what they see as poverty. So
absolutely.
It makes you appreciate more of what you've grown, built, and have. So that aside, the next question is going to be, if you could go back and give your younger self, it could be your teenage self, your 20-year-old self, your 30-year-old self, advice, what would that advice be?
That's a deep question. I'll just go with kind of what my answer is to go with my gut. I've been in some situations where I knew things weren't right, or things were bad, or things weren't going to work out the way I expected them to. And I didn't go with my gut and just kept going through the motions and paid the price for that. So giving your gut more credibility than most, like, I wish I'd given my gut instincts more credibility.
I think a lot of people don't do that. Like, they don't listen to their gut. They just kind of like, they're so used to going through the process and steps, they kind of ignore their gut. And I think I agree with you. Like, there's certain situations you're in, like that. I was just talking to a buddy of mine. He's had a property in, not Costa Rica, in Belize. And I told him, I was like, I didn't like Belize. Like, I felt like when I was driving cross country there, I was always being watched by somebody. And he's like, that's why we sold. They had a green glamping place in Belize. And he's like, I felt like I was always being watched, and that's why we sold the property, because it was dangerous. He's like, we felt like something's going to happen eventually. So follow your gut. Like, it's a very important thing, whether it be situational or financial or business. You need to
your gut is truly your subconscious, which is processing everything all the time. Like, your gut is things, it's the thoughts that you can't control. Like, it knows more than you do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, if you have that oh shit moment in the back of your head, it's like, nah, let me see what else is going on around here. Like, don't put your blinders on because you don't want to have to deal with it. Tyler, Mike, you guys got anything else you guys want to touch on?
No, sir. Thank you, Stinson.
Thank you, guys.
No, man, we could talk for a while, but thank you for taking a little bit of time before you head out on vacation, just sharing what you got going on, and hopefully this helps somebody, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I doubt that it won't. So thank you. I appreciate it and look forward to talking with you in the future, Stinson.
Yeah, thank you guys for what y'all do. And Tyler and I talk quite a bit, so I always brag about you, man. I assume you guys are the same way. I know you are, Mike. It's incredible to me that you guys have what many people would consider a salary good enough to sit back and live a good life. You have good retirement through y'all's first responder jobs. But kudos to you guys for taking on more and wanting more, like going out and running another business as well as being parents. I know I'm not a parent, so I know that's a whole, being a father is a whole other job too. So it's very, very admirable.
Hey, Stinson, if people want to get a hold of you, do you have anything going on right now? Do you have any programs? Do you have any? Nothing.
No, I'm not a coach, man. But if I can help somebody, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook, Stinson, Stinson, Bland, Bland. I have limited time, but if I can help you and answer some questions or whatever, I'm happy to do that. So.
Stinson Bland, not your guru.
I'm out of all
Is that the documentary?
Yeah, not your guru. No,
all right,
all
awesome. Thank you. And I guess This episode, 32?
I don't even know anymore. Stinson.
Hey, we're almost at a year.
Awesome. Thank you, guys, man. Y'all have a killer day.
Thank you, buddy. You too.
See ya.
Stay on.
Thanks again for spending some time with us today. If you found value in anything you heard, please share with someone who may benefit. We look forward to connecting between shows in our Facebook group, First Responder Financial Freedom. Till next time.